Her research, which focuses on online education, examines how predominantly residential institutions can create engagement opportunities and affinity building activities for their online students. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our faculty speaker, Allie Goldstein.
Hi everyone, my name is Allie Goldstein and I'm a faculty member here at Penn State in the Higher Education program. I am also a proud Penn State alumna. Today I'm going to be talking with you about the ways that we as members of University Park can help to infuse Penn State pride and Happy Valley into World Campus. A disclaimer, the title of my presentation today actually focuses on online education rather than World Campus because I believe that a lot of the things that I'm talking about extend beyond World Campus and can affect all of us quite positively. So let's get started. Who is a Penn Stater? When you see these words, who do you think of? Perhaps the first group that you think of are University Park undergraduates who represent 47.6% of the students here at Penn State. According to the fact book from 2018, we have 98,000 students enrolled at Penn State, and 46,000 of those students are here as University Park undergraduates. Maybe the next group that you think about are our Commonwealth Campus students. Commonwealth Campus students represent almost 30% of our students here. Perhaps the next group that you think about are our graduate students, who represent 9.2% of students at Penn State. And one thing as I keep on going, you'll notice that my numbers add up to more than 100%, and that's because some of these groups have multiple identities. So for example, you might see graduate students that also study at Commonwealth campuses. Then maybe the last group that you think about, especially given the topic of my presentation, are our World Campus students, who represent 14.9% of enrollees at Penn State. A couple interesting facts here about this number. When you look at online students, we find that our online students tend to be non-traditional, which means a couple things. First off, it means that they're less likely to enroll in the fall, which is what this number consists of, is only fall enrollees. And second off, that they're more likely to take time off. So in actuality, this number is probably greater. When I look at these numbers, one thing that stands out to me is the fact that our World Campus students are a larger population than our graduate students, and also that when you think about our World Campus in relation to the Commonwealth campuses, World Campus is actually our largest campus by more than 3 times the size. So up here, I have a bar graph that represents enrollments nationwide in online education, and there's 2 really interesting things that stand out to me if you look all the way to the right. The bottom part right here, in 2016, we see that 14.9% of students nationwide study exclusively at a distance. That's the same number that we see here at Penn State. The top part of this graph shows us what happens when you include also students that aren't studying exclusively at a distance. And I'm wondering how many people in the room have taken a class online through World Campus? Okay, so anybody who's raising your hand right now, if you haven't studied exclusively online, you're not included in that 14.9%, but you are included in that higher 16.7%. So we can assume that when we think about our enrollments in online education, that if Penn State does mirror the trends here, we have more than 30% of our students that are taking classes online, which suddenly elevates this student population to the second largest student population at Penn State, just behind University Park undergrads. Taking it a step further, when we look at enrollments nationwide in residential versus online education, we see a really interesting picture. And these data only go up to 2011, but the trends in research actually show that this is still the case as you go beyond 2011. So this bottom line, we see that online education is continuing to increase in how we enroll students, whereas residential education starts to plateau and then actually starts to go down a little bit in how many people we're bringing in. So from this, we can take, and what research shows in terms of education, is the fact that there is this major trend toward online education being a new normal, and it's something that universities do need to pay attention to. So let me tell you a little bit about my research. For my dissertation, which I did here at Penn State, I interviewed students at online institutions that also have a brick and mortar campus. And I asked students who studied exclusively online to talk with me about why they chose these institutions. On the screen right now, I have quotes from 2 students that studied exclusively online at Penn State. And before I get into these quotes, I just want to say the students that I interviewed talked about the reasons why they chose institutions in addition to why they chose the institutions themselves. So some of the students were military students that maybe were abroad, or students that had families or were working full-time, where online education was the only option that they were willing to pursue. However, they chose to pursue it at Penn State. So the first quote over here is from a student who was interested in going to the University of Phoenix, which is a for-profit institution, and then they say, I stumbled across Penn State's World Campus, and an advertisement came up, and I was thinking, what is this? And they realized, I can do all of this right here in my own house, and it's Penn State. It seemed like a dream for me to be able to go to Penn State, so I thought, let's give it a try and see what happens. My next student down here was a student who is from Pennsylvania. His family went to Penn State, grew up loving Penn State, and he shares, I felt like a Penn Stater ever since I was 10 years old. You know, just growing up in the city, I've always felt close to Penn State and what Penn State stands for. I looked at it and I thought it has a rich history and integrity. I think all of that and having a strong background as a child just made it so that when I was accepted to Penn State, which was something I never thought I'd be able to accomplish, when it came true, it was a good feeling. This sounds like a lot of the reasons why many of us chose Penn State. I know that this is a lot of why I chose Penn State. And so I share these with you because this is so exciting. These students, our online students, could be one of our greatest untapped resources. These students could be our next executive board leaders. They could also be our largest university donors. So what can we do? In terms of suggestions, what I did for you today was I thought about 3 different areas, and I have some examples for you of ways that I think that we can make a difference here at Penn State. Some of my examples are things that you can apply. Others, I think you can come up with far better ideas. So my 3 areas fall into, first, thinking creatively about things that already exist that we can implement for our students. The second is doing our research, knowing what's out there. And then the third is engaging. How can we, here at University Park, reach out to our online students and bring them in and help them to feel more connected to our university? So some examples. Up here is an example of a co-curricular grant that I filled out as a faculty member in order to get funding to co-present with my students online. And so quite like I'm here right now, I presented at a conference, and I had my students up on the screen, and they were able to get a conference presentation experience through technology. Another one, which I didn't know about until I started doing my own research, was the Thon virtual reality tool. One thing that I found out throughout my research as I was asking students what they wanted to be involved in here at Penn State was that consistently online students were excited about things related to the Penn State brand. They talked about things like the Alumni Association. They talked about things like Thon and opportunities where they felt like they were a part of Penn State. I often heard stories of people saying "we are" to them as they were wearing their t-shirts, and those were the things that they really loved. So being aware of these opportunities so that we can communicate that they exist to students is key. Another thing right here related to being aware are the different things that World Campus already offers. So this is just the World Campus website. You can see things like the Blue and White Society. Currently, World Campus is looking to start a World Campus student organization, a student government. They recently created orientations for students as well. Again, knowing about these things means that we can communicate them outward. And then finally, up here, which I think relates to everybody at Penn State, are opportunities for us to think about what we're already doing and how we can increase access. So up there, you see an example of a presentation that I did for my students residentially that I recorded so that students could attend it at a later time if they were working or if they were in a different time zone. It took a little bit more time, but I can actually see when I look at the statistics that more students attended that online session than did residentially. So this is just some examples of things we can do individually. How about within our organizations? Again, 3 major areas to think about. The first one, what are we already doing that we could be creating in more accessible ways? Could we be streaming our student government meetings? Could we be creating opportunities when we have events on campus so that students could see what's going on? Bell tower tours, things like this today. This is being streamed via Facebook. So students can actually log in and be a part of this as well. Next, what tools exist that could help us in our efforts to connect? I remember when I started this process feeling very intimidated by the amount of work and effort that went into understanding these technologies and feeling like I was on an island myself in trying to navigate how to make this a reality. We have amazing resources here at Penn State. Zoom, which is a tool that I use often and is a free video chatting presentation type software that you can use to bring people into events like this. Again, we all have access to that as Penn Staters. IT services at Penn State can help you navigate things as well, and the library does allow you to rent technologies, laptops, video recorders, things like that, that can assist you in making your events more accessible. And then finally, what new and exciting opportunities could we create? So this extends beyond the things that I presented to you today. Are there things that I haven't thought of? Are there things that your organizations are doing that you could innovate in? For example, your executive boards. What if you created positions where students could be executive board members from afar? Or if you thought about ways to do mentorship opportunities where World Campus students could be connected with residential students as well. The sky's the limit here. And again, this really is a process. So as I'm talking about these things, know that this isn't something that's going to happen overnight, and it might take trial and error and mistakes and issues as you go through it. But as you get used to it, you're going to get better at it, and hopefully as a result, we could bring more people in. So why should you do this? What's the benefit for you as residential students here at University Park and community members? This really extends beyond World Campus. So thinking about different students that are here residentially that could benefit from this. We have students that have families, students that are taking care of elderly family members, students with disabilities, people that live far away that maybe are doing long commutes, thinking about people that have full-time jobs that maybe can't come to events late at night, but might benefit from being able to log in later. And finally, weather. We've had some bad weather days this past year. Could we use technology to keep doing the good work that we're doing when maybe there are things that are standing in our way? Additionally, in terms of your own professional development, I saw some really interesting statistics related to the virtual job market. In 2005, since 2005, virtual positions have increased by over 150%, which is more than 10 times faster than the residential workforce. So if you're thinking about maybe taking a position in the future where you could be telecommuting, this is a great opportunity for you to be engaging in these technologies. In addition, some of the most impressive Fortune 500 companies out there are now starting to consider opportunities for remote jobs as well. Some of those companies include Apple, IBM, Dell, Aetna, CVS. So these practices really do help us. The other thing that's really interesting is that according to the National Association of College Employees, they did a job outlook survey in 2018 asking about the most desirable traits for college graduates. And the 4 on the screen were listed as the top 4 most desirable traits. And all of these relate directly to the work that I'm suggesting. So let's take out some examples here. Critical thinking and problem solving. 98% of employers said that this was a desirable attribute for college graduates. However, only 70% believe that college graduates have this skill set. How can we think creatively about ways that we can engage our students? The next one, teamwork and collaboration. 100% of employers believe that this is an essential trait, yet only 56% believe that college graduates have this trait. Again, how can we think about ways to build networks and to collaborate with our peers across geographic confines, across the country with different time zones? This is a great opportunity as well. Oral and written communication, I think, speaks for itself. But again, 90% of employers believe that this is a desirable trait, yet only 56% believe that we possess this skill. And the final one, which is so reassuring, is digital technologies. 70% of employers believe that this is a desirable trait, and 66% believe that we have this skill set. So what does this mean? When I see all of this information together, I know definitively that we as a community have the tools and capabilities. They're here, they're accessible to us, they're at our fingertips. There's a benefit for all of us beyond just our World Campus students in doing this good work. We know and we can see that online education is changing, and it is so important that we as a university keep up. So I ask that you join me in reimagining the ways that we as members of the University Park community can help to build connections for our online students, to bring them in to our campus community and to create opportunities that make it evident to them that when we say we are, oh, there's another slide there, they're included in our Penn State. Thank you.